Cruelty, in its essence, is a rebellion against the moral fabric that undergirds human existence. It is the deliberate act of inflicting harm, be it physical, emotional, or spiritual, upon another. At its root, cruelty springs not from strength, but from insecurity, not from superiority, but from fear. It is a desperate attempt to assert power, to control, and to dominate, but it is inherently hollow. For cruelty, by its very nature, stands in opposition to the law of love that governs creation. When one chooses cruelty, they choose to sever themselves from the greatest commandment of all, to love one's neighbor as oneself. Love binds humanity together, cruelty tears it apart. Love seeks to build up, cruelty seeks to destroy. Love nurtures life, cruelty corrodes it. The cruel may temporarily succeed in exerting power, but their triumph is always fleeting, for they are working against the grain of reality. They are like someone trying to swim against the tide, exerting great effort, but ultimately being swept away by the forces they cannot overcome. The moral law, what some might call divine law or natural law, is not an abstract concept. It is the very essence of what it means to live rightly, to honor the dignity of others, and to pursue goodness. Cruelty is a direct affront to this law. It is not merely a transgression of social norms or cultural expectations, it is a violation of the truth written on every human heart. And because cruelty defies this truth, it is doomed to fail. It may cause pain, but it cannot produce anything lasting or meaningful. It may wield fear, but it cannot inspire loyalty or love. Those who practice cruelty often misunderstand the nature of power. They believe that by instilling fear, they can control others. But true power does not come from the ability to harm, it comes from the ability to inspire, to uplift, and to transform. The power of cruelty is brittle, dependent on the silence and submission of its victims. The moment resistance arises, the moment someone stands up and says no more, that power begins to crumble. This is because cruelty cannot sustain itself. It isolates the perpetrator, alienating them from those around them, and even from their own humanity. Moreover, cruelty sets in motion a self-destructive cycle. The cruel may gain temporary advantage, but the costs are immense. They destroy trust, sever relationships, and create enemies where there might have been allies. In seeking to dominate others, they become enslaved by their own malice, trapped in a prison of fear and suspicion. The cruel person cannot rest, for they know that their actions have earned them the distrust and animosity of those they have wronged. Their victories are hollow, for they are won at the expense of their own peace and integrity. Ultimately, cruelty is not just a failure of morality, it is a failure of wisdom. It is short-sighted, blind to the reality that the world is governed not by force, but by justice, not by fear, but by love. The moral law is like gravity, it cannot be defied without consequence. The cruel may try to rise above it, but they will always fall, pulled down by the weight of their own actions. And in their fall, they will discover the truth that goodness, though it may seem weak in the face of aggression, is infinitely stronger. For goodness aligns with the moral law, while cruelty defies it. And no one, however powerful they may seem, can ultimately prevail against the truth. Trust is one of the most fragile yet essential elements of human connection. It is the foundation upon which relationships are built, the invisible thread that binds individuals to one another. When cruelty enters the picture, however, trust begins to erode, crumbling under the weight of harm and betrayal. Cruelty, in its many forms, undermines the integrity of relationships by violating the basic expectation that others will treat us with respect, kindness, and fairness. At the core of trust is the belief that those around us are safe and reliable. This belief is what allows us to open our hearts, to share our vulnerabilities, and to depend on others. Cruelty, however, shatters this belief. It introduces fear and uncertainty, making us question whether those we once trusted truly have our best interests at heart. For the victim of cruelty, the experience can be deeply disorienting. It creates a sense of betrayal that lingers, casting doubt on future interactions and relationships. Once trust is broken, it is not easily repaired. Even the smallest acts of cruelty can leave lasting scars, altering how individuals perceive others and how they approach connections in the future. Cruelty does not only harm its victims, it also isolates its perpetrators. To engage in cruelty is to act against the principles of empathy and mutual respect that form the basis of healthy relationships. Over time, this alienates the cruel person from those around them. People may withdraw from the cruel individual, fearing further harm or manipulation. The cruel, in turn, may find themselves increasingly lonely, surrounded not by genuine relationships, but by fear-driven compliance or hollow alliances. The very power they sought through their cruelty becomes a double-edged sword, isolating them from the warmth and connection that make life meaningful. The isolation caused by cruelty is not merely physical or social, it is deeply emotional and spiritual. For the victim, cruelty can create feelings of unworthiness and shame, making it difficult to trust even those who genuinely care. They may build walls around their hearts, withdrawing from relationships to protect themselves from further harm. While these defenses are understandable, they also come at a cost. The inability to trust can lead to loneliness, despair, and a diminished sense of belonging. It is a painful paradox: the more one seeks to protect themselves from cruelty, the harder it becomes to experience the joy of connection. For the perpetrator of cruelty, the isolation is equally profound. Though often less acknowledged, acts of cruelty often stem from a place of insecurity or unresolved pain. By choosing cruelty, the perpetrator creates a barrier between themselves and others, a barrier reinforced by fear and mistrust. Over time, they may find themselves trapped in a cycle of harm, unable to break free from the patterns that alienate them. The longer this cycle continues, the more difficult it becomes to repair the damage. The cruel person may rationalize their behavior, but deep down, they are likely to feel the emptiness that comes from a life devoid of genuine connection. The ripple effect of cruelty further amplifies the erosion of trust. When someone experiences cruelty, their mistrust can extend beyond the perpetrator to others in their life. They may question the motives of friends, family, or colleagues, wondering whether those individuals might also betray them. This ripple effect can spread through communities, creating an atmosphere of suspicion and fear. The damage caused by cruelty is not confined to the immediate interaction. It has far-reaching consequences that can affect countless lives. Rebuilding trust after cruelty is a long and challenging process. It requires accountability on the part of the perpetrator, as well as courage and vulnerability from the victim. Trust cannot be demanded, it must be earned through consistent actions that demonstrate respect, empathy, and care. Even then, the scars of cruelty may never fully fade. They serve as reminders of the harm that was done and the fragility of trust. Yet, they also hold the potential for growth. By acknowledging the pain caused by cruelty and committing to change, individuals and communities can begin the process of healing. Ultimately, cruelty isolates because it is fundamentally incompatible with the values that sustain trust and connection. It creates division where there could be unity, fear where there could be love, and suspicion where there could be understanding. To choose cruelty is to choose a path that leads to loneliness and despair. But to reject cruelty, to choose kindness, empathy, and integrity is to embrace the possibility of deeper, more meaningful connections. Trust may be fragile, but it is also resilient. With care and commitment, it can be rebuilt, allowing individuals and communities to move beyond the isolation caused by cruelty and toward a future defined by mutual respect and compassion. Fear is a powerful force. It has the ability to control, to silence, and to bend the will of others. Those who wield fear as a weapon often believe they have found the ultimate tool for domination. They see it as a way to achieve compliance, to enforce authority, and to secure their position. Yet fear's power is inherently fragile, a fleeting force that lacks the enduring strength of respect, trust, or love. Domination built on fear may seem effective in the short term, but it is ultimately destined to crumble. Fear cannot sustain loyalty, inspire hope, or foster genuine connection. It is a shadow that looms large but dissipates with the first light of courage or defiance. When fear is used to dominate, it forces submission, but not willingly or authentically. The compliance it generates is born of desperation, a survival instinct that seeks to avoid pain or punishment. This kind of obedience is hollow, devoid of true allegiance or mutual respect. Those who act out of fear do so reluctantly, their hearts and minds disconnected from their actions. They follow commands not because they believe in the cause or respect the authority, but because they feel they have no other choice. As soon as the opportunity arises to escape or resist, they will take it, for fear breeds resentment, not loyalty. Fear also has a corrosive effect on relationships and communities. When fear governs interactions, trust is eroded and individuals retreat into self-preservation. People become wary of one another, unsure of who might betray them or turn against them under pressure. This environment of suspicion and isolation weakens the very structure that those who use fear seek to control. Domination through fear creates a climate of fragility, where alliances are shallow and solidarity is easily broken. It undermines the collective strength of a group, leaving it vulnerable to collapse. History is replete with examples of fear-based regimes and leaders whose power crumbled when their methods of domination failed. Tyrants, dictators, and oppressors have often relied on fear to maintain their rule, only to be overthrown when the people they sought to control rose up against them. The fall of these regimes is a testament to the short-lived nature of fear's power. No matter how formidable it may seem, fear cannot suppress the human spirit indefinitely. People yearn for freedom, for dignity, and for the opportunity to live without oppression. Fear may delay their pursuit of these values, but it cannot extinguish it. Moreover, fear has a profound psychological cost both for those who wield it and for those who endure it. For the oppressor, fear is a double-edged sword. They must constantly reinforce their power, living in paranoia that their tactics will fail or that their victims will rise against them. This creates a life of anxiety, distrust, and isolation. For the oppressed, fear imposes a heavy burden, stifling creativity, hope, and the ability to thrive. Yet the human spirit is remarkably resilient, and even in the darkest circumstances, individuals find ways to resist, to hope, and to dream of a better future. What makes fear's power so short-lived is its inability to inspire anything enduring. True strength lies in the ability to unite, to uplift, and to cultivate a shared vision. Fear cannot achieve this. It can silence dissent but cannot create harmony. It can enforce compliance but cannot inspire loyalty. It can intimidate but it cannot command respect. The bonds formed through fear are weak and temporary, easily broken when the fear itself dissipates. In contrast, bonds formed through trust, mutual respect, and shared purpose endure through challenges and adversity. Ultimately, the fading power of fear serves as a reminder that domination is not true strength. The greatest leaders, the most enduring relationships, and the most resilient communities are not those built on fear, but those rooted in love, compassion, and respect. Fear may seem powerful in the moment, but it is no match for the enduring strength of hope and courage. The oppressed eventually find their voice, and the oppressor finds that their grip on power was never as secure as they believed. Fear is a transient force, while the virtues of trust and justice stand the test of time. Conscience is one of the most profound and mysterious aspects of the human soul. It serves as an internal compass. A voice within that calls us to distinguish right from wrong, to weigh the morality of our actions, and to strive toward goodness. Unlike external forces that can be silenced or ignored, conscience remains persistent and unyielding. It is an ever-present witness to our choices, a quiet but insistent judge that cannot be dismissed. Even when drowned out by the noise of rationalization or overshadowed by the pursuit of selfish desires, conscience continues its work, reminding us of the moral law written on our hearts. For those who choose cruelty or injustice, the voice of conscience becomes a haunting reminder of their betrayal of what is good and true. Conscience operates on a level deeper than intellect or emotion. While reason can justify almost any action and feelings can be fleeting and unreliable, conscience speaks with an authority that transcends personal desire or societal approval. It is not swayed by convenience or popularity, rather, it holds us accountable to a higher standard. This is why even those who outwardly deny the existence of morality often find themselves unable to escape the pangs of guilt when they act against their conscience. It is an internal reality that points to a truth greater than ourselves, a universal moral order that binds all people. For the cruel or unjust, conscience becomes a relentless adversary. Acts of harm or betrayal might bring temporary satisfaction, but they are followed by an inescapable inner reckoning. The voice of conscience may initially be faint, easily ignored or suppressed, but it does not disappear. It lingers, surfacing in quiet moments, in the stillness of the night, or in unexpected flashes of self-awareness. It reminds the wrongdoer of the harm they have caused, not only to others but to their own humanity. For every act of cruelty diminishes the soul, alienating the individual from the virtues of love, kindness, and compassion. Attempts to silence conscience are ultimately futile. Some may try to bury it under layers of justification, convincing themselves that their actions were necessary or deserved. Others may seek distraction, filling their lives with noise and activity to avoid confronting their inner voice. Still, others might grow hardened, ignoring the pangs of guilt so consistently that they become numb to them. Yet even in these cases, conscience has a way of breaking through. It may manifest as a sense of unease, a lingering dissatisfaction, or a deep-seated restlessness that cannot be shaken. No matter how far one runs from it, conscience remains, waiting to be heard. The persistence of conscience is a testament to its purpose to guide us toward goodness and away from harm. It is not merely a source of guilt or shame, but a call to repentance and transformation. When we listen to our conscience, it leads us to acknowledge our mistakes, to seek forgiveness, and to make amends. For those who have acted cruelly, this process can be painful, as it requires confronting the harm they have caused and taking responsibility for their actions. Yet it is also profoundly redemptive. By heeding the voice of conscience, one can begin the journey back to integrity and wholeness. Conscience also plays a critical role in the lives of those who have been wronged. It is a source of hope, a reminder that justice is not solely dependent on external systems or human institutions. Even if the wrongdoer evades accountability in the eyes of the world, they cannot escape the judgment of their own conscience. This internal witness ensures that cruelty and injustice do not go unnoticed, even if they are not immediately punished. For victims, the knowledge that conscience continues to work within the wrongdoer can be a source of comfort and reassurance. The universality of conscience points to its divine origin. It is not merely a product of culture or upbringing, as it often calls us to act against societal norms or personal interests. It speaks to something eternal, something unchanging, that exists beyond the shifting tides of human opinion. This is why acts of cruelty, no matter how normalized or justified in a given context, always leave a mark on the soul. Conscience reminds us that we are accountable not only to one another, but to a higher moral law that transcends time and circumstance. In the end, conscience is a gift, a safeguard against the darkness that threatens to overtake us when we stray from the path of goodness. It is an internal light that, if followed, leads to peace, fulfillment, and the restoration of relationships. For the cruel, conscience may feel like a tormentor, an unwelcome reminder of their failings. But in truth, it is their greatest ally, offering a way back to redemption and reconciliation. The internal judge that cannot be silenced is not there to condemn us, but to call us to a higher standard, to remind us of the dignity and worth inherent in every human being, and to guide us toward a life of love, justice, and integrity. Every action we take creates ripples, extending far beyond the moment of its occurrence. Like a stone dropped into a still pond, the consequences of our choices spread outward, touching lives, shaping perceptions, and influencing the world in ways we may never fully understand. Cruelty, in particular, has a devastating ripple effect. While it may seem, in the moment, to achieve power or control, it carries consequences that erode not only the lives of those directly affected, but also the legacy of the one who commits it. Cruelty, by its very nature, is destructive. It undermines relationships, tarnishes reputations, and leaves a trail of pain that can endure long after the individual is gone. Cruelty is fundamentally opposed to the values that define a meaningful legacy. A person's legacy is not built on fleeting triumphs or temporary displays of dominance, but on the impact they have on others and the world. It is the sum of their kindness, courage, wisdom, and generosity. Acts of cruelty, however, create a legacy of harm. They leave behind bitterness, resentment, and brokenness in the lives of those who suffer because of them. The cruel person may achieve temporary gains, perhaps winning an argument, silencing an opponent, or asserting authority, but these victories are hollow. They are remembered not for their strength or achievements, but for the pain they caused. Cruelty also destroys trust, which is essential for building a lasting and positive legacy. Trust is the foundation of relationships, communities, and institutions. It takes years to build, but can be destroyed in an instant by a single act of cruelty. When trust is broken, the damage extends far beyond the immediate relationship. It creates a ripple effect, spreading doubt and fear to others. A cruel leader, for example, may succeed in imposing their will through intimidation, but they lose the respect and loyalty of those they lead. Over time, this eroded trust weakens their influence, undermining their ability to inspire or unite others. The same is true on a personal level. Cruelty within families, friendships, or partnerships leaves scars that fracture bonds and diminish the connection that gives life meaning. The ripple effect of cruelty also extends to the way an individual is remembered. Legacy is not determined solely by what we accomplish, but by how we make others feel and what we leave behind in their hearts. A person who uses cruelty to achieve their goals may be feared or obeyed during their lifetime, but after their passing they are often remembered with bitterness or even contempt. The stories told about them will not celebrate their virtues, but recount their harm, their selfishness, and their disregard for others. The monuments they may have built for themselves crumble under the weight of public disdain, for no amount of external success can compensate for the internal rot caused by cruelty. Cruelty also creates a cycle of pain that can extend across generations. Those who are harmed by cruelty often carry its wounds forward, affecting their relationships, their worldview, and their ability to trust. This pain does not remain confined to the individuals directly involved, but is often passed on to others, creating a cascading effect. For example, a parent's cruelty toward their child can shape the child's future behavior, influencing how they interact with their own children or others in their life. Over time, these cycles of harm compound, spreading the destructive legacy of the original act of cruelty far and wide. Moreover, Cruelty diminishes the humanity of the one who commits it. It reveals a disregard for the intrinsic value of others, reducing them to objects to be manipulated or dominated. This dehumanization comes at a cost, not only to the victim, but also to the perpetrator. It erodes their own capacity for empathy, kindness, and connection. Over time, the cruel person becomes increasingly isolated, surrounded not by genuine relationships, but by fear and resentment. Their legacy is one of loneliness and alienation, a stark contrast to the enduring influence of those who choose love and compassion. It is also important to recognize that cruelty is often remembered far more vividly than acts of kindness. While kindness can blend into the background of a well-lived life, cruelty stands out, leaving an indelible mark on those it touches. People may forget the generous gestures or noble deeds of an individual, but they rarely forget the harm they caused. This is why cruelty so often overshadows other accomplishments, becoming the defining feature of a person's legacy. The cruel person may believe they have secured their place in history, but they are remembered not for their greatness, but for the damage they inflicted. In the end, cruelty destroys legacy because it is fundamentally at odds with the values that endure. Love, generosity, integrity, and empathy are the qualities that leave a lasting impact. They inspire others, build trust, and create a sense of belonging and purpose. Cruelty, by contrast, tears down, alienates, and diminishes. The ripple effect of cruelty ensures that its harm is not confined to the moment, but extends far into the future, shaping how individuals, communities, and history remember the one who wielded it. True legacy is built on the foundation of kindness and justice, and cruelty, no matter how powerful it may seem in the moment, is ultimately a force of destruction that leaves only ruins in its wake. Goodness has a remarkable resilience that transcends the fleeting nature of power and cruelty. It is rooted in compassion, the profound ability to recognize the worth of others and to act with kindness, empathy, and selflessness. Unlike cruelty, which fractures and isolates, goodness has a unifying force that binds people together. Its impact is lasting, often spreading far beyond the initial act, creating ripples of hope and healing that endure long after the moment has passed. While cruelty may gain attention and dominate briefly, it is compassion that ultimately triumphs, leaving an enduring legacy of love, justice, and humanity. Compassion endures because it reflects the deepest truths of our shared human experience. At its core, compassion acknowledges the inherent dignity of every individual. It bridges the gaps between people, fostering understanding and connection. In a world often marked by divisions and strife, compassion acts as a balm, reminding us of our commonalities and shared struggles. It is through acts of compassion that we come to see the humanity in one another, breaking down barriers of prejudice, fear, and resentment. This ability to unite, to bring people together in mutual care and support, ensures that compassion remains a cornerstone of any flourishing society. Moreover, compassion creates lasting relationships. When we act with kindness and understanding, we build trust and goodwill. These bonds are not easily broken, as they are rooted in sincerity and mutual respect. Unlike fear or cruelty, which drive people apart, compassion fosters a sense of belonging and security. It is the foundation of friendships, families, communities, and even nations. These relationships, built on compassion, are resilient, weathering the storms of life because they are based on something enduring, the genuine desire to uplift and support one another. Compassion also endures because it inspires others. An act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to spark a chain reaction. When someone experiences compassion, they are more likely to extend it to others. This creates a ripple effect, spreading goodness far beyond the initial act. In this way, compassion has a multiplying power that cruelty lacks. While cruelty may provoke retaliation or resentment, compassion inspires generosity and hope. Its influence grows over time, touching countless lives and creating a legacy of goodness that cannot be erased. Another reason compassion triumphs is that it aligns with the moral fabric of the universe. Deep within every human heart is a longing for justice, for goodness to prevail. Compassion resonates with this longing, offering a glimpse of the world as it should be, a world marked by kindness, fairness, and love. Acts of compassion affirm our belief in this high ideal, giving us hope and strength even in the face of adversity. They remind us that goodness is not a mere abstraction, but a living reality, present wherever people choose to act selflessly for the benefit of others. Compassion is also deeply healing. It not only alleviates the suffering of those in need, but also transforms the one who extends it. When we act with compassion, we step outside of ourselves, transcending selfishness and fear. This brings a profound sense of fulfillment and purpose. It reminds us of our capacity to make a positive difference, to bring light into darkness. The joy and peace that come from compassionate living are enduring, far outlasting the fleeting satisfaction that comes from selfish or harmful pursuits. History bears witness to the enduring power of compassion. Figures such as Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and Mother Teresa are remembered not for their wealth, power, or achievements, but for their relentless commitment to goodness and love. Their lives continue to inspire millions, not because they wielded authority, but because they chose compassion over cruelty, love over hate. Their legacies endure because they tapped into the timeless truth that goodness, though it may face challenges, cannot be extinguished. Compassion also leaves a lasting imprint on the world because it nurtures hope. In moments of despair, it is often an act of compassion that reignites faith in humanity. It reassures us that no matter how dark the times may seem, there are still those who choose to care, to heal, and to love. This hope is a powerful force, sustaining individuals and communities through trials and hardships. It reminds us that goodness has the final word, that even in the face of cruelty or injustice, compassion will prevail. Ultimately, the triumph of goodness lies in its transformative power. Cruelty may wield temporary control, but it leaves destruction in its wake. Compassion, on the other hand, builds, restores, and redeems. It turns pain into healing, division into unity, and despair into hope. Its effects are enduring, shaping not only individual lives, but also the trajectory of humanity as a whole. Compassion aligns with the best of who we are and who we are called to be. It is the light that pierces the darkness, the enduring force that reminds us of the beauty and potential of the human spirit. In a world where cruelty may seem strong, compassion quietly yet powerfully demonstrates its ultimate victory, proving time and again that goodness is the foundation upon which lasting legacies are built. The cruel always fail not because their cunning lacks brilliance, nor because their might lacks strength, but because they fight against the very fabric of reality. They pit themselves against the law of love, the cornerstone of human existence, and in doing so they forfeit the goodness that could sustain them. Cruelty may yield temporary gains, but it poisons its own fruit. It isolates, corrodes, and collapses under the weight of its own injustice. Yet in this truth there is hope. The failure of cruelty is not just a punishment for wrongdoing, it is a testament to the triumph of good. It is a reminder that love endures where fear fades, that justice prevails where oppression falters, and that compassion outlasts malice. The moral law, written on every heart and reflected in every act of kindness, stands as an unshakable foundation. No force, however cruel, can destroy it. And so, while cruelty may wound, it cannot win. The scars it leaves are real, but they are not final. They are markers of resilience, reminders that goodness, though tested, remains undefeated. The cruel will always fail because their actions are incompatible with the truth of who we are as human beings, beings created for love. for connection, and for the pursuit of what is right. Let this truth embolden us. Let it remind us that even in the face of cruelty, we have a choice. We can resist without becoming cruel ourselves. We can seek justice without forsaking mercy. We can endure suffering without losing hope. For in the end, it is not cruelty that triumphs, but the enduring strength of compassion, courage, and love.